Thank you for joining us for another show of Capital Preview, brought to you by MediaCom, a show where we bring you legislators' views on topics important to Iowans. Our guest today is Senator Chaz Allen, Democrat from Newton, and welcome, Senator.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here again.
It's good to see you. The first thing I want to talk to you a little bit about, because I know these things are of interest to you up at the State House, and that is the Veterans Courts. Do you kind of want to explain to our viewership what the Veterans Courts is all about?
Yeah, right now there's a test project going on in Sioux County that if you're arrested for drunk driving or drugs or things like that, in Sioux County they'll ask you if you're a veteran, and if you are, there may be a reason other than just criminal that you've got picked up for a DUI. This then allows that person to be put in a process that allows them to maybe get the help they need that's causing the drinking or the drugs or things like that, because there are veterans out there that that drink to go to sleep. Mm-hmm. And that causes problems in our society when those people are driving, when they're in public places. And we need to get to the bottom of that and find out and identify the problem, and then get them the resources they need through the VA, through the county, through places like that, so that it doesn't create a bigger problem than what it should be, because there are resources for them. And the thing about it is, they just need to receive those resources, and it's tough to get them sometimes in our Veterans Affairs offices.
Mm-hmm. And I know, Senator, you're a big veterans supporter. I know you do a lot of work on veterans issues, so we appreciate that. The other thing that isn't necessarily tied, but it's still working with the veterans, is providing proper burial for unclaimed veterans' remains in funeral homes across Iowa. And you know what? That's something that people don't think about.
Right.
But you might want to kind of explain that a little bit and go through.
Well, as it goes through, as somebody that might be homeless, if they pass away, the county will claim the body and they'll go to the funeral home, and then it'll be cremated, and the funeral home's responsibility is to try to find some of the family members for this. Well, what this does is the veterans organizations can come in and see the names of the unclaimed remains in those funeral homes, run those names back to the veterans facilities and find out, hey, one, is this person a veteran? Two, what's the family around? And try to get in touch with the families to have those people given to their families. Well, what we're finding is that when they go back, they're not reclaimed, but they need to have a proper burial as opposed to being held in a vault. Mm-hmm. So once a person is found out to be a veteran, and then there's no family members to claim the remains, then the veterans organizations can then go out and have a proper funeral and ceremony for this unclaimed veteran.
I mean, and I'm sure you agree, it's the least we can do for the people that have fought for this country.
Exactly, and it's not something I even thought about or knew about really until we started seeing, until we saw this bill that it did pass the House, and we passed it out of a subcommittee and committee this last week in Veterans Affairs. So we are going to run it to the floor very soon and try to make this a law.
Now switching gears a little bit, because we're back to the Capitol and the kind of the tax issue. Would you kind of explain, we've heard a lot of coupling, has been in the papers all weekend, all last week about coupling, and I know that passed, or the bill passed, right?
It's passed the House, and it's gone through Ways and Means in the Senate so far, and it needs to be voted on the floor.
Okay, so why don't you kind of go through a little coupling and the consumable tax?
Well, let me back up first.
Yeah.
We did. The House did pass coupling, but then we came to an agreement last week with the House and the Senate agreeing that we would do the consumables and the coupling.
Okay.
Do that, and we've come to an agreement. Now, what that does is that tells us how big the pie is now. Before, we weren't sure if we didn't know what group was going to do what. Now we know how big the pie is, so then we can go ahead and start working towards an agreement on school aid. Okay. But the biggest thing is coupling is important to a lot of small business owners. 2/3 of the coupling 179 is $100,000 or less, which really shows that that's small businesses that are getting that. And we certainly don't want to hurt them in their cash flow. It's not about money from a profit standpoint. It's about money through a cash flow standpoint for these businesses to make their payroll in the first quarter and things like that. They were expecting this. The consumables is a different thing. It's more of a manufacturing. There are a lot of products that are put in the manufacturing process that should be included in the process, not an extra item that's taxed. So drill bits, sandpaper, grinding wheels, things like that. And I think we came to an agreement that we wouldn't. There were some things in the proposed from the governor that were more like, to me, seem more like capital expenditures as opposed to consumable products in a manufacturing process. So we've come to an agreement with that, and we're going to run that, I believe, this week and get that out there so we can begin to work on the process of school funding and get that done for these school boards out there that are behind already.
So what's this week going to be like down there? Is it going to be a busy week, a slow week?
It kind of, you don't know.
Yeah,
on Monday.
right.
I think it's going to be pretty much normal week. We'll get through a lot of bills that are non-controversial, that are correcting code changes for obvious reasons, for other reasons.
Yep, right.
But then you don't know. It just depends what comes up and when they want to run things.
Okay. Kind of in that same vein of going through some of the big issues, educational funding, that thing is the...
Well, we're already a year behind. We should have, they should have had their numbers for this year, last year, and we don't have that. It's frustrating. I think it's frustrating for everybody. I wish we could come to an agreement sooner than we do, but it seems to get mixed into the political process, and we fail our communities by not passing this, and that's unfortunate because school boards are negotiating with no idea what they're going to get. Now, I will say this: I think that the Finch Post, and I've said this before, is 2 and 4%. So, and the governor said 2.5%. So, I believe we'll come in somewhere between 2 and 3% is how it's going to fare out in the end. But it's unfortunate that we can't come to an agreement sooner and push this thing so the schools know next year what they're going to get.
And we're coming up on our being done with time, but I do want you a quick thing of the Medicare privatization, which I know is, that thing has to, the lights are thrown on it on April the 1. So first,
I think from the standpoint of privatization or the MCOs, that it's a process I think needed to happen. But I think the time frame they set out to do that was not realistic. It was 9 months, and it should have been, maybe 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Each project keep coming in.
I've heard that.
And we're going to see a project I'm working on right now is having a rough time getting payments from the Iowa Medicaid enterprise, and then they're scared they're not going to have the money to do. When they do go live April 1st, they need enough cash to make payroll because they don't think they'll get paid right away from the MCOs.
Yeah.
And have to fight that battle.
Yeah.
So we're trying.
Well, the federal government thinks you're ready. They gave you the green light, but I'm not sure.
I question them sometimes myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I thank you for joining us this morning, Senator Allen. It's been great talking to you. I know you do good work up there. And thanks again for joining us here at home. My name is Bill Peard. I was your host for Capitol Preview. Please join us again. Thank you.